And good evening, good morning, hello, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. This is The World Today. I'm Mike Ryan. Spaz. You're a spaz. There I go. Hello, hello, hello. That's what will happen. The police might visit us for saying spaz. Now, why do I say this? Katie Hopkins, ex-TNT colleague, and the only reason why it stopped was because her internet was terrible. We tried everything. The only thing we didn't do was have a cable to one of the satellites, Elon's satellites. But Katie, I love, a very good lady. Anyway, watch this. This is with Roseanne Barr. I think Katie's in the at the moment. She is. Why would you be talking to Roseanne Barr in the UK? There's another thought. Must find out. Anyway, this is Katie Hopkins. Have a look at this.
Fucking get back here, you cripple spastic. I'm a proper spaz. And actually, it's the last thing I got hauled into the police station for in the UK just before I got here. I was told I would either be arrested or I had to turn up for interview under caution, was because on my Katie's Arms, my pub, where I just, let rip, whatever, I called myself a spaz. And I got arrested effectively by British police because that's offensive.
Jesus.
It's demonic.
Place.
Yeah, I'm waiting to find out if I'm going to be charged against the Online Communications Act for calling myself a spaz.
I'm so terrified of going to the UK.
Yeah,
there you are. Right, that's Roseanne Barr. Lordy Lord. Thought she'd gone off to the great thing in the sky. Doesn't look too bad either. What is she, about 90? 990? Anyway, good on you. But Katie Hopkins, she called herself... Sorry, I can't help it. It's hilarious. Imagine me on air going, Mike, you're a spaz. Now, stop nodding, by the way. Mike, you're a spaz. There's something happening. Anyway, there was a noise. Did you hear that, Robin? Just nod. There was a noise there anyway. I think Robin's frozen, actually. That's the noise. Robin, you're frozen. You look like Jerry G. But could you imagine, though, spaz? Anyway, that's what... How do you plead, Katie Hopkins, to the grievous charge of spaz? Anyway, but the UK, I have to say, the UK, it's stuffed, isn't it? It is really stuffed. Okay, now, this is a very serious thing. This guy, we'll play the video first. Okay, there's Robin. Truly, it's like a... Robin, you need to disconnect and come back to us. Disconnect from planet Earth. Snap that cable. This is a terrible thing. Watch this. Tell me what you think. The UK truly is. It's lost the plot. Cam, play stabbing.
The man's come out with a knife now. Boss, look here, look.
Go for me.
Look. Go, he's got a knife. Go.
Idiot! You fucking idiot! Find the Quran!
Go. He's got a knife as well.
No.
Oh, you got a knife, man. Come with the
fucking idiot!
Hey, don't come to me.
Go for me!
Listen, I'm just filming, yeah?
Find the Quran!
No, you shouldn't be. Listen.
It's my religion! You don't buy Quran!
What are you doing? Come on, man. What are you doing? You're standing out in public road with knife. Exactly, what are you doing?
Fucking bullies on the floor! Stand up, fight, you fucking bully! Fuck you up!
You don't buy fucking...
He just did. He's done it. Unbelievable. He went into his residence here. He went into here, took a knife, come out, and started attacking him with a knife. Unbelievable.
Cam, there you are. I thought you might have joined Robin Tilbrook. And Katie in the Spazmobile. Oh, I love Katie. Good on you, Katie. Could you give us a call? So there we have Hamid Koskun. He was repeatedly slashed with a knife by a guy called Musa Kadri for burning a Quran outside the Turkish consulate. Now, the guy with the knife, he walked away with a suspended sentence. And the guy that was attacked, he was fined, I think, 240 quid. So, I mean, think about it. Your Honour, he attacked me with a big knife and wanted to kill me. Oh, I find you guilty. What? Oh dear, it's nuts, isn't it? The UK is nuts. Oh, you need more than a new government. It's just terrible. I mean, I feel sorry for you if you live in the UK, which is a magnificent part of the world. Love London, love Bath. Bath is very nice. But you got these nutters running around, and you got the nutter judiciary. I mean, it's just incredible. Okay, but let's see what Talk TV said about this. Cam, if you could play 2-tier.
This was blatant, observable, undeniable, inescapable two-tier justice. Musa Kadri is a Muslim man who lives in London, has done for quite a while. He saw another man called Hamid Koskun burning a Quran, as we say he was perfectly entitled to do. Musa Kadri saw this, shouted at him, went back into his own house, which was nearby. He got a large bread knife. He came back out of his house over to Hamid Koskun, shouted and swore, saying, "I'm going to kill you," and then repeatedly slashed Hamid Koskun with that knife, punched him, waited until he was on the floor, kicked him again, slashed him again until he was distracted by a couple of bystanders who said, "Stop it, what are you doing?"
Thank goodness.
His motive? This man offended my religion. Now, he could have been charged with perhaps attempted murder, you might think, stabbing someone, slashing at them with a knife.
While saying, "I'm going to kill you," bit of a clue, I would have thought.
He could have been charged with ABH. Hamid Koskun was severely injured by this attack. He could have been charged with affray. He wasn't. He was charged with common assault. There was a bizarre, inexplicable decision to charge this man with the least serious imaginable offence. Meanwhile, Hamid Koskun, who was prosecuted for burning his own copy of the Quran, well, he was prosecuted by Junior Treasury Counsel, the most senior barristers in the country that are meant to be prosecuting murders at the Old Bailey. No, they prosecuted him for a hate crime. By the way, it was never suggested in court that this man had done it for a hateful reason, even though he said the reason he was doing it was to stand up for his religion and didn't like Hamid Koskun's atheism. Lucy Connolly spent over a year in prison for an ill-judged but swiftly deleted tweet. Even before you get to those kind of imbalances, the treatment of these two men tells you everything you need to know about the way that the British state operates.
Exactly.
There is a message being sent to people that if you are a Muslim and you are offended by somebody attacking, denigrating, in some way disrespecting your religion, you can premeditatedly go and get a knife, threaten to stab someone, attack them, and you won't spend a day in prison. As far as I'm concerned, I don't feel safe on the streets of this country. I just don't think that anybody doubts for a minute that if the shoe was on the other foot, so to speak, and if this was a far-right individual that picked up a knife and went up to a pro-Muslim stand in a town centre and repeatedly stabbed at them, slashed at them with a knife he'd brought to the scene especially, shouting, "I'm going to kill you," does anybody in this country, come on.
Hang on. Yes, Robin Tilbrook, we're looking for him. Yes, he's about this tall. Last seen running off with a bottle of scotch. No? Okay. If you find him, tell him we're waiting for him. Thank you so much. Your name is? Starmer. Thank you, Mr. Starmer. Bye. We have contacts. Okay. Queen Ursula von der Leyen. We all love her. Not. And she's the unelected queen of Europe. And what she wants to have, basically it's a ministry of truth. The government will pay for independent media. It's not so independent, is it? But that's what she wants to do. So, Cam, if you could play Queen Ursula von der Leyen for us, please, the Ministry of Truth.
And honourable members, the rise in information manipulation and disinformation, as we hear, is dividing our societies. It is not only eroding trust in the truth, but also in democracy itself. This is why we urgently need the European Democracy Shield. We need more capacity to monitor and detect information manipulation and disinformation. So we will set up a new European Centre for Democratic Resilience. This will bring together the expertise and capacity of member states and neighbouring countries. You obviously are fearing this new centre.
Okay, I understand that shouting has become a little bit of a tradition. Can you listen, please, to this discussion, and then you'll have the time to speak?
In some communities across Europe, traditional media are struggling. In many rural areas, the days of going out for a local paper is a nostalgic memory. This has created many news deserts where disinformation thrives, and this is so dangerous for our democracy, because informed citizens who can trust what they read and hear are essential to keep those in power accountable. And when independent media is dismantled or neutralized, our ability to monitor corruption and preserve democracy is severely weakened. This is why the first step, listen careful, this is why the first step in an autocrat's playbook is always to capture independent media, because this enables backsliding and corruption to happen in the dark. So we need to do more to protect our media and our independent press. And this is why we will launch a new media resilience program. And this media resilience program will support independent journalism and media literacy, but we also need to invest to address some of the root causes of this threat. This is why in the next budget we have proposed to significantly boost funding for media. We also need to enable private equity. We will therefore use our tools to support independent and local media. A free press is the backbone of any democracy, and we will support Europe's press to remain free despite your shouting.
Stop it. Go away. That's Queen Ursula von der Leyen. She's magnificent, isn't she? Not. While we're waiting for Robin. No, he's not here. But we're looking for him. He's heavily armed with some big cannonballs. Plus he has a couple of other 1,700 pistols there. And some whiskey. So, Anthony Albanese, the Australian Prime Minister, his big moment, he had two big moments. One, he had a photo op with the President of the United States. And that was a lovely photo. Looked like he was visiting a rock star. He was mesmerized. He was like, oh my Lord, it's the President of the United States. Oh my God. Anyway, that's that. And he made a presentation to the EU, to United Nations, in fact, showing how his new gizmo is going to censor. It's going to save, first of all, children's lives. It will stop them from watching things. You have to be. The news said 18. I think it's 16, unless it's gone up. And you have to, biometrically sign in, or some way that before you can look at the terrible, terrible stuff they have on YouTube. I mean, YouTube's bad enough. They just, if you say anything they don't like, you've just gone. So why they would pick on YouTube, who knows? But anyway, we're going to have all that happening. It's a Trojan horse, by the way. It's a Trojan horse that if I want to use biometrics to log into YouTube, can you imagine what's going to happen to YouTube and all the portals? If you have to do it every time, you're going to get sick of it, aren't you? You're just going to go, nah, not worth it. So government is messing around with things it doesn't know the answer to. So the problem is, though, Ursula von der Leyen, you just heard her speech on free speech, which is not free speech. If you look at that, this is in fact, we won't go to that, but I just want to say that Ursula is a truly magnificent person, that she was applauding, absolutely applauding. Actually, we will do a bit of time here, applauding Anthony Albanese, and we will be watching how you control them. Cam, if you could play applaud.
Anthony, I want to thank you and Emma for bringing us here together. This is a bold decision that you have taken, and it's an example of what determined countries can do. Since the announcement of Australia's landmark minimum age law, I've been watching very closely. And I've been inspired by Australia's example. You're the first to give this a try. And when your loud critics tell you, I guess this won't work, that can't be done, the tech genie cannot be put back in the bottle, etc., you are persistent. We in Europe are watching and will be learning from you as you implement your world-first and world-leading social media ban. It is, of course, also a hot topic discussed and debated in the European Union. Prime Minister, as I've said before, when it comes to the EU-Australia relationship, there is no distance between our democracies. The same goes for good ideas. I look forward to working with you on this. Thank you very much. And Emma, again, thank you very much for sharing Tilly's story.
I will be watching and noting, and then watching more and noting even more. And after that, we'll all be watching. Robin Tilbrook, help, she's terrible. Robin Tilbrook, by the way, who vanished, he was just disconnected from the human race, is the leader and chairman of the English Democrats and chairman of the Workers of England Union. Robin, what the hell's wrong with the UK? We just played some clips before about your two-tier system of, the guy that was being stabbed was fined 240 quid, and the stabber, he was let off with the, don't do that again, all right? If you're going to kill someone, make sure you do it properly. But it's just nuts, isn't it? It's totally nuts.
It is totally nuts. And in fact, that judge that sentenced the Muslim attacker, knife attacker, to a suspended sentence because he was such an excellent father and family man, apparently, and was only protecting his religion. That judge sent to prison somebody who tweeted something that the judge and the system disagrees with. So it's a really clear example of not only two-tier justice, but also judicial inconsistency and how far the system has now got towards trying to clamp down on free speech. Obviously, you just played a clip with Ursula von der Leyen saying how wonderful it is that you're clamping down on free speech. When I was a young boy, people used to say, we have the ways and the means of making you talk, but evidently they've now got the ways and the means of making you not be able to talk.
But I will be watching and noting. She's just developed an Australian accent too, by the way. But it's very sad that, and here we have, the United Nations, something out of like two Ronnies, applauding I mean, it's great. Control the earthlings. But it's terrible, isn't it? It's a terrible thing. I mean, what the hell's happened to, what's happened to the UK? I mean, it's truly, it's quite pathetic. We have Katie Hopkins. She called herself a spaz. So
Careful, Mike. Last time you mentioned that, my system went on the blink.
that's right. We have ways of turning you off, Robin. But what's happened to the UK?
Well, I mean, what we've got is the consequence of what the left have long glorified in the sort of Maoist way as the long march through the institutions, and a lot of our institutions are now captured and working against us. We're in the political party season at the moment where they have their conferences. We've just had the Lib Dem conference, and we're about to have Labour. And the Lib Dems, who are the party who are most hostile to any sense of nationalism and national identity. In fact, their cry used to be that they wanted to dissolve all our petty nationalisms into the greater European whole. My joke with that was whether that was a whole spelt with a W or no W, which I thought it was the no W whole. But basically, they were waving the Union Jack in their conference, making out that they were patriotic. And Starmer, Prime Minister Starmer, has announced that he's also trying to recapture the Union Jack from the far right, he says. But of course, the flag that neither of them like is the Cross of St George, which is, of course, as you can see, the flag that I've got behind me.
With a gun. I'm not touching your flag. Tell me about
that gun wouldn't help me much. It's a old gun.
But the flag as a cape, it's Superman. Tell me about the halal situation. It's like everybody has to, whether they like it or not, are eating halal. Tell me about that. I mean, and I know what you're going to say here, but just for the audience.
Yes, thank you, Mike. So basically, we've some of us, including myself and Catherine Blakelock, have been investigating just how wide-ranging halal has now become, and how much of our meat in circulation, particularly in the supermarkets, is religious slaughter, shall we call it that? Basically, it turns out that it's an enormous proportion. It looks like it's over 70%, and many of the state related institutions like schools, the Welsh Assembly, even Sandhurst for the army, are feeding people on halal or religiously slaughtered meat. And of course, that's happened without any democratic mandate for it to happen at all. It's happened without any actual discussion or disclosure. It's also enabled some unscrupulous businessmen to make a huge amount of money, because it's much cheaper just to slit an animal's throat and let it bleed out, rather than to go through the what the regulations say should happen with a slaughter. So we've now got the situation where 70% of our meat, it seems at least, is halal or religious slaughter.
Yeah, I just got a message through that they're changing the name of Maccas to Mecca. Sorry, or Mohammed's. Sorry, I'm a terrible person. See, I'm okay at the moment. Hang on. Hello. Maybe not. But and because you are a solicitor, and a fine one, you'll be able to look after yourself and me, if you don't mind. But what are we going to do? I mean, will they start adhering to the law? Because at the moment, what they're doing is breaking the law. Is the government ballsy enough to make sure that that they start doing what the law says, or are we just going to morph into what we're doing, and that's just part of it?
So, fortunately, in terms of trying to do anything about it, we don't have to go to the government. It is local authorities that are responsible for enforcing the law. The law says that there is an exemption from our normal rules about humane slaughter, hygiene, all the rest of the requirements for slaughter of animals, and the exemption is one of the exemptions is for halal, which is that animals can be killed by Muslims for the food for Muslims. It doesn't allow Muslims to kill using religious slaughter methods for anybody else other than food for Muslims, and this is what's being abused. And of course, what we've got is another example of two-tier justice, where the state and the local authorities and so on have colluded with this and have simply not enforced the law. And we think nobody's challenged it before, but we should be able to get a High Court order in a judicial review to require the slaughterhouse inspectors, to properly enforce the law.
What's the time frame on that?
For judicial review? Oh, well, it would be months. So, I mean, often judicial review takes about 6 months to get through the first stage where you've got permission to proceed, and it might be a year in total, but it's unlikely to be more.
We're a bit tight for time here, but I'm sure Hedley Rees, who will be up very shortly, won't mind just hanging out for another 5 or 6 minutes. Tell us about Cambridge University combating racism and nationalism, and why are they doing this?
Another example of long march through the institutions, I'd say. What you've got is left-wing thinkers wanting to destroy any foundation ideas that lead into the idea of the English nation. So they're trying to say that we're going to get rid of the concept of Anglo-Saxons. We're going to get rid of even Vikings, I think they were saying. I don't know what they reckon they're going to replace those with, but whatever it is, I think it's going to have zero chance of most ordinary people taking any notice of it at all. And I would just say, because both Oxford and Cambridge have gone deliberately woke. I mean, you saw that rather clearly with their proposed Oxford's president-elect of the Oxford Union, the supposedly free speech venue in Oxford, who turned out he had been allowed a place in Oxford at one of the most prestigious of Oxford colleges on A-level results, which no ordinary white applicant would have got anywhere near. So we're at a stage where a lot of white applicants trying to get into Oxford University don't get a place where they've got 3 A stars, in other words, the top possible mark at A-level, and this guy got an A and 2 Bs, and he's in, and he's also now about to become the president of the Oxford Union. Cambridge and Oxford applying these kind of admission approaches, in other words, diversity entry requirements, applying those, they've now slipped from being the top universities. They're no longer in the top 3 universities.
That's just terrible. It's terrible. What drives the people, the elitists, to want to destroy, in this case, the UK?
Well, I mean, obviously the left has long been anti the idea of nation, and I can quote no better, I think, than Karl Marx, who, after the failure of the revolutions across Europe in 1848, said, mournfully, all the revolutions of Europe are wrecked on the rock of England. They don't like England.
They don't.
Or they don't like the idea of the English nation, and they are just enemies of it.
I have to say, in about 6 weeks' time, I will be sharing that for 5 days at a particular time. We have the Ashes. Now, for those watching who know nothing about cricket, the Ashes are that is the penultimate. It's England versus the convicts, and Australia has always been a much better side, most times over the years. And what happens is, in cricket, it's a 5-day game, and at the end of the 5 days, many times, there's no result. You just sit there and watch the grass grow. But I do think, though, I think this time, I think God will forgive me if I show disdain towards the English. Just for, I think there's 5 tests, that's 25 days. Other than that, I love you all dearly. So come on, Aussie, come on. Robin Tilbrook, I'm glad you came back to us. Truly, I thought we had people outside looking in the skies to see if you were flying around planet Earth. But
I think it's when you mentioned Katie Hopkins, it went mad.
Well, blame Katie. Katie Hopkins, it's your fault. Anyway, look, it's always a pleasure. If somebody wants to find out more about you and the parties that you represent, how do they do that?
Yeah, so the English Democrats website is englishdemocrats.party. The Workers of England Union is workersofengland.co.uk, and I'm on Twitter at Robin Tilbrook.
Yeah, and good luck going to your next Maccas. As I said, it could be called Mecca or Mohammed's. But anyway, and see, I can say that because 1, you'll defend me, and 2, I'm not there, I'm here. And maybe they'll have a welcoming party for me when I come into the UK. Who knows? Robin Tilbrook, solicitor, leader, and chairman of the English Democrats and chairman of the Workers of England Union. Thank you very much. This is The World Today.
If you missed your favorite show or interview, visit episodes on our website at theworldtoday.news. Our live shows are also on X, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Kick, and Twitch. Now there really is no reason to miss out on anything on theworldtoday.news.
It was very interesting. I mean, today I even had some calls from people talking about, in fact, the earlier show we were talking about Tylenol and its effects on autism, and the jury is out. There's no data to say it is, not enough data to say it's bad for you, not enough data to say it won't hurt you. But there is data there, and we had a very good doctor on an earlier edition today, so it's up there on YouTube or Rumble. Go and have a look at it. It's a very interesting, really interesting, and it shows you how little we do know about autism, and that most likely more money and resources do need to be poured into it because it's a very serious disease for some. And speaking of Tylenol, we're talking about that along with Donald Trump and Robert Kennedy Jr. And their reactions and people's reaction to what they're saying. Hedley Rees is Managing Director and Lead Consultant at PharmaFlow Limited. Hedley, thanks for joining us. Inverted commas, the outrage on what Donald Trump has said about Tylenol, it's absolutely laughable, isn't it?
It is, yes, Mike. I remember Donald Trump saying in the last administration that he ran, something about injecting bleach into people so that they wouldn't get COVID. And it was so ridiculous that it's obvious he is just looking to make an effect. He basically throws in the bomb and then looks at what comes out of it. And what's come out of it is absolute outrage, particularly in the UK. It's all over the place. People are basically saying this is so ridiculous. Donald Trump is out there, he's out in space, and it's not helpful in many ways. because Robert Kennedy Jr. is really leading a new FDA now with Marty Macri in place and other leaders. It's very obvious to see that they are now clamping down on the things they should have been clamping down when Peter Marks was there, waving through all the vaccines. And it's brought people out in the open. I mean, the new head of the MHRA on LinkedIn is absolutely going to town on this, and so many people are presenting evidence. But all Donald Trump is saying is that we know with Andrew Wakefield, who was vilified, who said potentially vaccine were causing autism like 15 years ago, and I think he's back. He's been vindicated in many ways in that autism rates have shot up over the last 15 or 20 years, or however long. Particularly the US has had this vaccine schedule. This long list of vaccines that have to be taken that now people are challenging, and so there's a lot of prima facie evidence to say that we should be investigating causes of autism, and if there's any data out there, look at that. But also the amount of data they'd have to collect to prove this paracetamol, stroke Tylenol, whatever you want to call it, for pregnant women, it would be enormous. So there's nothing going to happen in the short term. I just hope it doesn't affect Robert Kennedy's ability to go on doing what he's doing.
Yeah, he's certainly getting a lot of flack. We had a couple of queries about the guy we had on, which is on, if you go to YouTube or to Rumble, there it is. It's a guy's name is Dr. Richard Bowles, I think his name is, and he's a lead researcher in the treatment of mitochondrial dysfunction and autism. And he's a co-founder of a company called NeuroNeeds, which is neuro as in brain, neuroneeds.com, and has first-hand experience in treating patients with autism by improving their mitochondrial function, which is really interesting. Just quickly, Hedley, what do you think? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot here. Mitochondrial function is basically the energy that's from the metabolism for the brain. So it's a very interesting discussion. I have to say, when we had him on this morning, I wasn't too sure which way it would go, and I thought, wow, there's some things that science is moving quickly ahead, and they say they can manage autism, providing it's not deadly serious. But we do need to put more resources and more money into it, don't we?
Well, I like people who come up with ideas. They've got real world evidence. They can see things that are improving things. The problem is that the companies with the resources, the big pharma companies, aren't interested in that at all. They're just looking for blockbusters. And at the moment, they're heavily into rare diseases where the typical price tag is $1 million plus just for one patient treatment. So the whole resources that go into drug research are not working with doctors. And the thing is with drugs, it's not just science. It's a mix of science and engineering and technology that bring drugs to market. And no matter how good, like I keep going back to penicillin and Alexander Fleming, he had an accidental finding, which is very important when he found a bacteria being killed in his culture dish, but he didn't know what was killing it. It took him 11 years to get to Oxford University, who isolated the active ingredient, but they couldn't make it in any quantities. So they had to go off to the US to find someone who was an expert in the manufacture of molds. And he was the person who devised the process to bring penicillin to market in 1945. And Alexander Fleming's finding was in 1928. So, there's a lot more to bring the drug to market. So I've written this in my book, we've got to bring doctors back into drug research because they will be the ones who will make the accidental findings or the findings based on real-world evidence where they see that drugs are performing in certain ways. And, so that's where we should be going, bringing doctors back in to developing drugs and not thinking it's all about science. You know, Fauci, the number of words he mentioned science must be in the billion now, I would say, and it's complete nonsense. And they've used this science thing all through COVID, and it's time we stopped talking about science and started to talk about medicine, about going back to the days when Alexander Fleming, Oxford University, and the US Department of Agriculture, actually, who devised the process. That was the forerunner to the FDA. Now, we need that sort of collaboration between FDA, between companies who can develop and manufacture drugs, and they aren't the big pharma companies. They are contract development organizations who offer fee for service, and they can charge what they like because big pharma haven't got the resources. They outsource it all. So, you know, it is a nonsense. And I think, you know, we are debating, these things are coming out now, and it's very important that we bring it out. And I'm grateful that you have me on to help do that.
It was interesting. I truly found it very interesting, and I was quite taken aback by his candour. And Red just asked on chat, is the paracetamol news a cover for vaccine injury? Well, I actually asked the doctor about this, Dr. Richard Bowles, and he said he didn't think so. He said he wasn't sure. Now I know Red's probably saying, there you are, cover up, but he actually is very candid. And he said they weren't sure. They didn't. So far, there was nothing leading there, but he didn't discount it by any means. And it was interesting with autism itself. It's each individual it's different for each individual, and it could be from your genetics, from your family, and and all that sort of stuff. So, and then we talked about. Someone wrote in and said, what's the difference between Asperger's and autism? And it was interesting that Asperger's is hyper autism. And the reason why they don't usually refer to Asperger's is because earlier go back 20, 30, 40 years ago, it had because of a Nazi called Asperger. He was, or a Nazi scientist, because of the Nazi connection, they preferred not to use Asperger's, but it's the same, basically. It's except it's hyper autism. Do you think, Hedley, they will find, because if it's an individual case-by-case disease, do you think they will find a cure for it? He says, look, what they can do now, and they're getting better, is they can manage it. But wouldn't it be nice if you could find a cure? Do you think that will ever happen?
It depends if the industry changes its business model. I say the industry, we always think of big pharma, but the actual nuts and bolts of what's happening in the industry between hospitals and people making drugs is that there's no real focus on sharing information on what experts, scientific experts, know. And is it John? I forget his name. He's in the book. But he says something like 50% of research is false. It can't be repeated. The research into all these health conditions is totally underperforming, shall I say, in a big way. So they, these research organizations want to make a big impact. So they may be under pressure to come up with data that's quite revolutionary, and sometimes. It can be invented because no one really, the general public don't really understand what it means. And there's a lot of information and articles being written to say that the state of research in the world, medical research, is broken. And I know very, very clever people who will confirm that. One person in my book called Ray Perkins, from Ohio, who came to my conference in 2019 in Wales. He is an expert. He says it's not about genes suggested, it's about proteomics. So we don't have enough genes to explain what happens to people as they get disease or whatever. It is a mix, as you say, between the environment and all sorts of different things. And you have, You have to come at medicine from the side of proteomics and understanding that you cannot predict what any drug is going to do when it goes into the body. All you can do is look at what's happening to the body, you study it with real world evidence, and then you can decide how the body is dealing with these things. What happens in the pharmaceutical industry is and Alzheimer's is a classic. There is a chemical called beta amyloid, which the theory is that it wraps itself around brain fibers, and if you can dissolve that beta amyloid, then you've got a drug that will cure Alzheimer's. Now, there have been 30 late-stage failures in Alzheimer's in the last 15 years. And when I say late stage, I mean phase 3 clinical trials, which have cost, the whole program will have cost billions of dollars. So you multiply one study by 30, and you've got hundreds of billions of dollars that have gone down the pan based on a theory. Now, these theories are merely that. Someone thinks, and there's now there has been a theory that something called tau is doing it, but actually no one knows. And the best way is to use the Alexander Fleming way, which you take real world evidence, you build lots of evidence that a drug is working, and then you test it in humans, haven't been safety tested, and then you see what comes out, because you can't predict what's going to come out. Look how complex the body is. Who knows what anything's going to do? It's the same with these COVID vaccines. I mean, who knew what these sensitive biologics, where the manufacture is so complex, it's unbelievable, the cold chain and all that. No one knew what was going to happen in people's bodies. So the whole concept of drug research and drug development is completely broken.
Interesting that you mentioned COVID, and we also have a grumpy old woman. Apparently she's not, she's a lovely person, but she calls herself grumpy old woman on chat, says that autism is a disease. It isn't a disease, it's a condition. What's your thoughts on that one?
Well, again, I'm not a scientist. I'm not an expert. I'm not supposed to know that. I'm the guy who helps build the supply chain once the evidence is there. All I know is that there's been a large increase in autism, and I would accept this condition, not a disease. But if you're going to talk about methods to help it, ameliorate it, cure it, whatever, it doesn't matter what you call it. You have to study it. And the people who've got the resources to study it just are not doing it. Study it in the right way, not just come up with, a drug solution that we don't know is appropriate. We must start off with the Hippocratic Oath, which means do no harm, and a doctor should first look at diagnosis, look at all sorts of evidence about the condition. And, you've got functional medicines, you've got vitamins and minerals, which have got a big impact on people's health. And we don't really know, in terms of diagnosing people, we don't know when you go to your shop and get your vitamins and minerals, you don't really know what you're short of. So if you fill yourself up on vitamins and minerals from the shop, you may not be actually doing yourself any good. So we should be looking at diagnostic methods where people can actually understand. Like vitamin B12 is a classic vitamin that people are low on, and they need to boost their levels. But if you don't know you're low on it, and there's so little money goes into diagnostics, that we aren't really getting the methods to be able to investigate functional medicines. So there's so much that's not being done, and the only stuff that is being done at the moment as I keep saying, the companies with the resources at the moment, although I don't know how long that's going to last, are the big pharma companies.
The just back to this Tylenol thing, or paracetamols. When Trump said, and it just said, look, be careful, it's not good for you. And I would prefer to have that advice than oh, it's okay for you, because it may not be good for you. It might be, we don't know, 1 in 30, 1 in 40, who knows? But at least he's put that out there. But the anti-Trumpers, or those with Trump derangement syndrome, which is, what is it? TDS. It's a terrible disease. Terrible, because you can come out with the truth if you're a president, and people will go exactly the opposite. And what pregnant women did to show you that we disagree with him entirely, they start popping these Tylenol tablets. See, doesn't affect me at all. I like to see the child in when they have the child, because there is a chance. And what they're all saying is there is not enough evidence to say it is bad for you, and there's not enough evidence saying it won't harm you. It's sort of, no one understands yet. So to do that was just that was very bad, I thought, and very stupid, because they're putting their child at risk just to prove a political point. And just finally, do you think Donald Trump should have made those statements? I think he should have, and I think he's entitled to, and I think it's a good thing, because take away everything else, it gets us talking about something that's very serious.
Yeah, I don't know if he does it purposely or it just is the way he does things, but it does open things up. It gets people responding and asking questions, and that's what we need. We can't stick with the status quo, which has got us where we are now. So I'm a big supporter of Donald Trump, in that he has got a business background, and he knows that you can't do things in a small way. You've got to do them in a big way, make big statements, and then you can't control them. But you know that things are going to start to respond, and the more these people sort of push back against basically research, because if it's a question about anything doing harm to people, you shouldn't just say, oh no, you're a conspiracy theorist. We should say we want this system, it is a system, to actually be able to identify and research these questions. We're not saying there's an answer either way, but the process needs to be that we do the investigation, and no one is doing the investigation because everyone's focused on blockbusters. Everyone, I say not everyone, but you look now at the amount of investors who are pushing all sorts of rare diseases, and small companies who haven't got a chance of getting a drug to market have got huge valuations. What they call biotech companies, and when you look inside them, they can't build a supply chain. They've got so many issues, but it's like smoke and mirrors, particularly on LinkedIn. There's people doing all these analysis on who's got the next big drug, and these are big numbers, and they're going to fail, and the investors are going to lose their shirts at some point.
Yep, and if you lose your shirt in England, it's very cold.
Hedley, I'm in Wales here, Mike Ryan.
And if you look at just a bloke, by the way, if you look at your location, it says Wales. So I understand that. So don't be mean to me, Hedley. But I know you're in Wales. You're in the best part of the UK, apparently.
Yeah, fancy me putting me on with an Englishman, although he seemed a very nice bloke.
Well, I can't help it. Sorry about that. But now, Hedley, by the way, who do you follow in the cricket? The English because that's an English side. It's coming out to Australia.
Yeah, it's mad, but we've got Glamorgan, who have just got back into the Premier League in I don't know what to call it now, in the England League. So and Glamorgan have been in the wilderness for a while. So my neighbour opposite, he's a big cricket fan, and you have to follow England over here. I'm not sure if you're right when you say Australia have got the better record. I don't know enough to judge, but that sounds a bit partisan to me.
No, I just said that because I was being scurrilous. I was being a very bad person, but I'm a very one-eyed Australian fan when it comes to cricket, I have to say. And as I said, there'll be 25 days that I really, really dislike the English, and in between those tests, I will love you all, even if you're from Wales. I will. And by the way, Hedley, my doctor is Welsh. So there you are. I've had many drinks with him, medicinal purposes only. I haven't heard him sing, but I believe all men sing well. Do you sing?
I've got I've got an awful voice, a dreadful voice. I was Tom Jones, and I said I wish I could be born like him. But yeah, but you don't offer me whiskey anymore, Mike. I'm not sure why that is. It was 16 glasses you offered last time.
I'm just mean. I'm just mean, that's all. I mean, I keep it all for me. In fact, by the way, my wife won't let me have a drink in the week anymore. She said I can have it on weekends, Friday and Saturday, maybe a tipple on a Sunday, but not much so. So I did find out two things. One, I miss it more, and two, it lasts me longer. Now, Hedley, at this stage, my producer and business partner and dear friend Jen is sharpening the knife probably to stab me for waffling. But I do enjoy cricket. Hedley Rees, if somebody wants to find out more about you, how do they do that?
I just go on the internet and put my name in, and I must have done 150 interviews between TNT News, and I'm on Rumble, and I keep saying the same thing all the time. I'm consistent, and you never hear anything different from me. So, yeah, just look me up.
You're a gem. By the way, while we're on cricket, and we're finished, basically, we're just talking. Because I almost played county cricket. I used to really enjoy it. I had morning tea with Sir Donald Bradman. And his wife.
You don't mean that?
Yes, and I did. I had morning tea with him. I used to, I did doing phys ed. You had to work out what makes sportsmen so great. Anyway, I called him up, and he invited me over for a cup of tea to have morning tea with him and his wife.
Well, that makes you famous.
And I have not washed my hands since after I shook it. But I always tell, if I ever get a cabbie is from India, I always tell them that. It's like, ooh. Never get a free ride, but they go, ooh. Hedley Rees, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll talk to you again very shortly. This is The World Today.